Hello and welcome to Sound Librarian. I'm Stefan Schutz. This might not seem relevant to these videos, but I'll get to it in a second. I spent some time in the army as a musician, but part of that was that I had to do basic training. So I went through the standard basic training, 12 weeks of learning how to fire a weapon, fun things like throwing grenades. Very, very scary when you realize how dangerous they are. Getting really super fit, the discipline, and all these sorts of things. The reason why I mention this is because there has only ever been one game and game franchise that has ever given me the experience that I felt doing night exercises and the sorts of things that you might experience in real combat. Now, I've never been in real combat, but the night exercises and the training we do is, I guess, as close as you can get without somebody shooting at you with intent. Call of Duty was that franchise, and it was the original Call of Duty that really, really triggered in me some of the feelings of what I'd experienced in basic training. And so I've always had quite a lot of respect for a game that's story, presence, and definitely the audio could bring that out in me. So when it comes to Call of Duty 4, which is their Modern Warfare one, we have a game that's been around and a franchise that's developed that is simply huge. Huge budgets, huge development cycles, lots of people working on it, and huge expectations from the audience. Call of Duty seems to continue to live up to those expectations because the audience just seems to get bigger and bigger. From the audio point of view, let's go and find out why. With a lot of the analysis videos that I've done before, I've included sections of the introductory story, the opening cutscenes, to establish a bit of what's going on within the game so that we can talk about the audio elements. With Call of Duty 4, I've gone straight into the action, and this is many hours into the game at this point. And the reason why is because really what Call of Duty is all about is the action. It's the intense feeling of being in a combat situation that is the critical flavor of these games. Now, what's really significant about this game is how it does this. This entire scene we have here has so much going on. As we can see here, there are helicopters, groups on both sides of the conflict. There are a range of different weapons firing. There's a lot going on. It's a very, very complex environment. Now, to somebody who just was observing the game and didn't really understand what was involved with producing a game like this, they might just assume that to achieve this, it's simply a case of having lots of gunfire shots going off, lots of explosions going off, and just basically creating a busy environment. That's actually a very, very incorrect assumption to make. To make a game like this work is actually incredibly difficult. The success or failure of a game that has this level of complexity in its audio environment comes down to how well it is produced. And what I mean there is not just the quality of the individual sound effects, how clean they are, how crisp they are, it's how well they are all combined.
Three-story building, 1130, second floor balcony. Target acquired. Fire!
In a game such as Call of Duty, there is so much going on, and yet what's going on is actually critical information for the player. You need to be able to tell whether the gunshots that you're hearing
are close to you, because if they're an allied sound, it gives you a feeling of support. If it's an enemy sound, obviously it's a threat. It's how you position all of the sounds within the world. And then how do you make sure that they are all cleanly discernible to the player? What sort of processing is going to be applied to a sound over distance so that you can get a feeling for, there's somebody standing right next to me, he's on my side, I can hear his weapon firing, I know I have support. Or I can hear a sound off in the distance, it sounds like a sniper rifle, it doesn't sound like somebody on my team, that's a potential threat. This is a very, very complex process, and that's why these games take many years to produce well, and why there's only really a couple of companies that make these types of games that get the level of recognition of producing very, very high quality games. And Call of Duty certainly is one of those series. All of this information needs to communicate something to the player about either their situation or the narrative. Otherwise, it's just noise. So once you get those elements right, what next? What Call of Duty has achieved that a lot of other similar games don't is the strength of its narrative. How, amongst all of this chaos and gunfire and explosions, can you actually get a story in there? And more importantly, a story that the player is going to care about. Call of Duty has some very, very heavily scripted moments. The trick of that is to not make the player feel like they are involved in a heavily scripted moment. The sense of energy and excitement and drama has to be maintained. Otherwise, the player can get the feeling that they're just being led along by the nose.
Hold right here! Enemy tank coming up the road!
South of us! Warpig, Bravo 6. T-72 behind the building at 10 o'clock. Can you engage? Over. Roger that, Bravo 6. I got him on thermal. Switching to manual. Taking the shot. Lots of secondaries. Now let's get the hell out of here. Coming through. Roger that, Bravo 6. So, are we there yet?
So what we've just seen here is a situation where, in some ways, the story pauses. The enemy tank presents a serious threat to your entire squad. Having the friendly tank come in, engage, and neutralize that threat, if it's done badly, it makes it feel like, well, you know, great, but, you know, when the real threats come along, there's nothing I can do but sit and wait for somebody else to deal with it. In this particular case, it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like, oh no, here's something that's really, really dangerous, but we've got an ace up our sleeve. The might of the US military that has a high-tech piece of equipment that means that the friendly tank can target the enemy tank through a building, so it doesn't even need to draw a straight line of fire, which just, again, makes you feel like you are being backed up by high-tech military force.
This is deadly. We'll take out the big targets. Mop up any troublemakers with Mark 19.
So the story continues to play out in various different aspects. And one of the things that they do in Call of Duty to keep the interest up is they provide you with different ways of engaging in the story. So here we've got a scene where prior to being dropped into the action, you are in the helicopter and you get to operate one of the support weapons. Your environment sounds different. Your environment in this particular case is dominated by this high caliber weapon that you are firing. Whether it actually affects what's going to happen to you when you land on the ground or not kind of isn't relevant. You get the feeling that it is. Importantly, you get the feeling that you are involved in what's going on here. And so much of this has to do with, again, the balance of how the audio is presented to you. You are detached from the ground, so you don't have the individual sounds of bullets whizzing past you. You've got that almost reassuring background hum of the vehicle in which you're flying. And of course, you've got the weapon that you're using that is obviously significantly powerful. And again, that's depicted in a lot of ways by the sound.
This is verified safe. All forces are to fall back to the east. Over.
We're hit! I'm off the tail runner! Mayday! Steadily going in hard! We're going down.
Friendly helicopter has been shot down. I find myself, even in a game like this, where you don't even get to meet many of the characters, I still find myself caring about them. The little snippets of radio that you hear from the helicopter pilot. You know that's somebody on your team. You know that's somebody that has been helping you out. Previously, these helicopters have been flying escort for you, have been providing you with support. You want to get in there and you want to rescue them. So you sprint to get to this helicopter to try and rescue your comrades. And again, much of this is a scripted event. But you feel engaged in the story. This scene is actually one of my favorite scenes in any sort of combat game like this. Even though it's really, very, very tragic.
Get the hell out of here, over. Roger that, we're on our way.
Steer that red car! Open fire!
Outlaw, this is command. We have a probable nuclear threat in the capital. Proceed to the minimum safe distance until the all clear is given by the nest team. Go, go! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. We're in for some shots. Hang on. Check in the next hour. All U.S. forces be advised. We have a confirmed nuclear threat in the city. Nest teams are on site and attempting to disarm. I repeat. Everyone, hang on! There's Kamarov's man. Let's go.
Al-Assad is in the village. The ultra-nationalists are protecting him.
Perfect. Move out.
Now we switch to a very, very different style of gameplay and very, very different audio environment.
It's the ultra-nationalists. They're killing the villagers.
Yes, there's combat going on, but generally the night mission is aimed at being stealth-driven or at least more precision engagement. It's not a giant open battlefield. There are people moving around, but it's nighttime, and the engagements seem to be more specific and shorter in nature. So the whole atmosphere in this particular section is very different. Later on in the game, you're presented with yet more different scenarios where it's just you and one other individual, and you're working as a sniper team.
Contact. Enemy patrol dead ahead. Stay low and move slowly. Will be impossible to spot in our ghillie suits.
The sound environment is much different in that there's almost no engagement because you really need to be in a situation where you take out your opponents one at a time. And so if they start shooting back, it means you've pretty much failed. So while on the surface, a game such as Call of Duty might seem to be just nothing but lots and lots of guns going off, there is far more complexity in the production of a game like this than I think a lot of people might realize. Especially one such as this that provides you with lots of different environments through which to move and lots of different gameplay styles. There is considerable work done to make the voice acting seem realistic and really make you care about the characters that you do deal with. And balancing the environments is a massive, massive undertaking.
Это ядерная зона бедствия. Здесь...
So from the production standards point of view, Call of Duty is just simply really, really high quality product. Perhaps not everything in the audio environment is brand new and innovative, but again, it's still all rock solid and well produced. This is an example of how you produce a big name franchise properly. I hope this has been interesting for you, and thank you very much for watching.